Melbourne Cocktail Festival is a really great step forward in terms of really coming together
to build health and resilience in the industry.
We see this significant change in a mixology world and a coffee world.
Because we don't have this prescribed educational path, we all really have to build that curriculum to build that education, much like we were doing today.
So using these digital tools, we can understand the ergonomics, the efficiency and the metrics of the bar, and then also start to collaborate worldwide.
We're learning about the importance of mental health, sustainability for our bodies, our minds, for the produce that we use.
Honest and inclusive connection makes everything, including what's in your glass, taste better.
So here we are, it's 2017, and we're following our local distiller and guide, Santos, 15 minutes walk up a 1 metre wide track perched above this ancient river, just outside the town of Las Canoas, 3.5 hours south of Guadalajara, truly in the middle of nowhere. And it was really hot too.
It's true.
Santos creaked open the chain link fence of the distillery, and he had a little look around. And he said, "Buena suerte, boys. None of the locals are here." And we thought, why is that lucky? We kind of had been here to see the guys in action, to see some of these crazy stills and taste some of their tushka. He said, "Well, boys, around here, if the locals catch you at the distillery, they can get pretty aggressive."
Very aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Yeah, very aggressive.
So I think we're starting to feel a little bit nervous about being here with nobody knew where we were in the middle of nowhere, where we hear this whistle from down the river. And peek down to see our local guide, local fixer and naughty boy, Pancho, swimming completely naked, backstroking in this sacred river. His dick and balls flopping about.
Like it was a paddler on the world's hairiest canoe.
It was about 30 seconds later when we were all naked too and swimming in the river with him, as you can see.
This is not a Getty image, just so everybody knows.
Source. Yeah. It was a ride in the back of Santos's old ute up to his agave fields later. His agave fields were amazing. These huge agaves and these 100-year-old cactus trees with these pitaya fruit. These fruit sweet and juicy. They tasted like strawberries and they looked like brains. They were incredible. This field was planted with his own unique patented method of landscaping, which is find an ant hole, poke your fingers in and then shove an agave plant in there.
He didn't have to dig.
Yeah. Later again, after some gratuitous photography shoots, a little bit of football and some amateur chicken fancying, we finally got to try his spirit, his tushka, his mezcal, in these mixed mash juice glasses on his tiny table. And you know what? This was a moment in time. This was incredible. This spirit tasted like the minerals that we'd been from the river that we'd been swimming in. It tasted like the dirt that was still stuck to our shoes. It tasted like that sweetness of the cactus fruit, and it tasted like the sour of Santos's sweat. It was still alive, and it was just totally crazy. And so we bought 2 litres that day from his jerry can, and we brought it back with us in a plastic bottle, this totem of our time in Mexico, and we put it on the bar at Tio's. And we thought, you know what, people are going to froth.
Oh, we couldn't wait.
We talked to our staff, we showed them the photos, we showed them the stories, we told them everything, and they loved it too.
And the nudes. We showed them the nudes.
Yeah.
It's transportative.
Yes, very. And then we waited, and the first one got served to the guest, 30 mils poured out of this plastic bottle. And we inched closer and waited for his mind just to explode in pure spirit ecstasy. And he kind of took a big whiff and a sip. And oh no, the first words out of his mouth were, "Oh, it's a bit gross. I'm getting a bit of an ashtray vibe. It smells a bit like BO."
Armpit,
in fact. Tasting note.
Something was quite clearly amiss. We'd got something very wrong, but as we said, it was 2017, so a couple of young agave experts. We'd read a book, we went to Mexico, we knew what to do. We'd rely on our old friend science, objectivity. We got some tasting notes. We actually invented a mezcal flavour wheel, if you can believe it. It was mostly like other flavour wheels, but we wrote mezcal on it. We proudly displayed it on the bar. We upgraded the plastic bottle that we'd served it in to start with to a cleaned glass bottle that we'd also taken from something else. We put a label on it. We got the notes, all the production things. We gave it a score out of 10, and we gave it a certified Alex and Jeremy gold medal. And we figured big day's work.
Crack the code.
We've cracked it. So we gave it to another unwitting guest, fresh from a big day in the local creative office. He was there for a crispy cold Tecate, and what if we could give him a glass of Santos's finest? We waited for another head explosion. The reaction was better, but somebody definitely said, gross. So, in that moment, we put on our thinking cap and we started to think some more. It tasted best with Santos at his house in mismatched juice glasses on a shitty plastic table that was about this high. The soccer ball from his prodigious grandson flying past our head, and the wonderful sounds of baby chicks chirping in a box at the back door. We realized that we were tasting this spirit emotionally, not analytically. We were getting wrapped up in the subjectivity of the experience, and objectivity, something we'd held in such high esteem, fell away. And something else very powerful fell away in that experience, and that was for us the need to feel like experts, to validate something that we knew was good based on somebody else's. We realized that our experiences in Mexico, the culmination of them, those were enough. And in that moment, we started treating Mezcal like art. Jeremy would never admit it because he doesn't like to. But we were seeing something living and breathing, something greater than the sum of its parts, something alive, something to be appreciated, something to be savoured. We couldn't apply science to it. And when that kind of need to feel like an expert fell away, we realised something else. And that was expertise as we were using it was actually being counterproductive to what we wanted to do. We wanted to transfer people to Mexico. We wanted to give... Sound effect. We wanted to give them real and honest information. We wanted them to see what we saw. Instead, we found that expertise as we knew it was actually exclusive. Here's a diagram that I made. I actually didn't make it. I got a designer to make it. But if we can see here, laser pointer, if we can see here, what we were really aiming to do was mainline that connection, go host to guest and then guest to host to create a dialogue. And we realized here, expertise was kind of trickling back down to the guest. Here, the kind of heights are a bit of a power dynamic as well, because it was really shifting, using expertise, how we were relating with our guest. Instead of making them kind of on the same level as us, instead of creating a dialogue, what we actually realized we were doing was excluding them. We were taking them out of the story, and oftentimes we were making them feel like a total noob. N00B, you know. And that exploited our biggest fear when we go somewhere new, and that's to look like a kook. And we didn't want to do that. So, we rejected expertise, we embraced subjectivity, and we became obsessed with this new approach. We felt like we were really onto something new. Who are we to tell somebody who something was or wasn't? Well, we weren't experts. I have another point there.
Not experts.
Can you remember?
We're enthusiasts.
That's exactly right. And what if that approach gave us the power to give people the courage to try something new, exciting, and strange, to connect, to create a dialogue? And what if that approach could actually make the things that were in people's glasses, like it did with us that day at Santos's house, what if that approach could make things taste better?
So Alex has been doing a little bit of rambling, a touch of waffling, but I guess that you're probably asking now, we're kind of at the middle point of this thing, is like, what are we actually saying here? Are we saying that blind tasting is junk science? Are we saying that scoring any agricultural product out of 10 is a ridiculous example of the Western obsession with scientific categorization post-Renaissance? Are we saying that we have all been tasting spirits all wrong this whole time? Actually, that's everything that we are saying.
Yes.
But we're also saying, a bit nicer, that there's a funnier, and fundamentally more honest and more engaging way to taste spirits. And we call that emotional tasting.
That's not Molly Meldrum, too. That's Jeremy.
That's right.
Drinking out of a gourd.
And what we think of emotional tasting is that it is a deep connection to what you're getting in the spirit. It's allowing memory, it's allowing story, and it's allowing subjectivity to kind of come into the experience of trying any spirit. So you're probably saying, how do I run an emotional tasting, and how is an actual emotional tasting different to the regular kind of structured tasting?
Sounds pretty crazy, man.
Does it? You madman. So basically it starts like any other. Get some people in a room, fill their glasses with some kind of spirit or beer, wine, any liquid basically. And then start to drink and start to talk. But the big thing is, instead of doing tasting notes or instead of scoring it out of 10 and giving some notes, giving it a medal, what we do is we just ask 4 questions. And these 4 questions kind of lead you down the track to opening yourself emotionally to these spirits. The first one is, what does it smell like? Now, smell and aroma is so deeply connected to the kind of emotional and memory centers of your brains. And we all know this instinctively. And it kind of leads straight through to the next one. That first smell is going to really bring up memories in you. So the next one is, what does it help you remember? What is familiar about this thing that you're smelling? And then the next one is the opposite. So if you've got something familiar, what is outrageous about this? What is different? What have you never tried before? What surprises you? And when we answer the first 3 ones, we really come to pull it out now. It's, how does this spirit make you feel? Not how does this spirit taste?
Sorry, I was just backing up.
Thank you. And then we've got these 3 things. These 4 questions, they help us sum it up in 3 words. This is just a really easy way at these end of the tastings to create something that we can then go back, try it again, taste it again, and have this kind of really tight little sentence that describes everything that we want to say about this spirit. Now, we're saying a lot of the words objectivity and subjectivity, especially in relation to the tastings that we're doing. I guess we kind of wanted to pull out exactly what we mean for them in this context. So on the baby poo brown side, we have traditional tasting with objectivity at the top, the kind of core of it, followed by analysis, scientific analysis, if please, expertise next, and then delivering it to everybody as a monologue, coming in for a place of power. And then on our side, that rich red, we've got subjectivity, we have emotion over analysis, we've got enthusiasm, genuine enthusiasm over expertise, and we've got a dialogue between guest, host, guest, guest to guest. And the main thing about these questions and this approach is that you don't have to be a master of wine. You don't have to have your Belgian beer certificate. You don't even have to done a Cert 4 at your local TAFE. No. Everybody has a bank, a library of experiences built up in their own minds that they're willing. If you're willing, you can pull on it at any moment. And what it's going to do is it's going to connect you to what's in your glass. And in reality, it's going to make what's in your glass taste better. Now, you're probably asking you are asking a pretty important question, which is, what right do 2 red-blooded Aussie dads have to talk about emotion?
Well, it's something that we do every day. We do it in our 15 square metre garage, Cantina OK. Everything in that bar has a past, a present, and hopefully a future. All the timber came from one tree. The beautiful daffodil safety yellow ice shaver was smuggled on a family holiday by our friend Shiva. And those jars at the back, well, they're full of black currants that have been infusing since Christmas 2017. The major way that we do this in Cantina, we frame as telling the story. And the main way that we do that is through our menu and through our bottles. I just have to
apologies to Omar on this one.
I stretched the images. Now
he's over there. He's not as chunky.
He's looking a lot better today. I got confused. He looks great, actually. Anyway. So this is the first thing that guests engage in when they come to Cantina OK, but to us, this is no ordinary menu. It's a statement of intent, a 76-page spiral-bound book printed by a professional book printer that's a combination of photos that I took, stories that Jeremy wrote, and real, honest experience as we experience it. And more importantly, it actually came to represent a new philosophy, a new toolkit that we'd built for ourselves to engage with spirits and to sell them to our guests, to share them with our guests. Our new philosophy had 4 key components as distilled in that menu: anecdote, photography, honesty, and the Kernel. So each town or village that we go to in Mexico, as we presented in the menu, starts with a small an evocative story, something that's personal to us. It's a framing for the guest. It lets them know that it lets them know that we're storytellers, and it starts to bring them into our set of experiences. Stories add context, but they also add significance. They give everything life, a life outside of its own. And we found that by framing things in this way, we were starting a conversation where we were taking people that were coming to the bar, like we did in Mexico, we started to take them there. Big sandwiches, lush valleys, sweet dragon fruits, and pitcher me mezcal. These are a few of my favourite things. You will notice that the way that we write story is very personal to us, like your favourite book, like any author that you love. Writing things that are real and genuine to you are extremely powerful. They're extremely transportative, and they're extremely individual. And that's really important when we're trying to supercharge emotional tasting. A story is a gift to the guest, something that they share and will go on to share again. Once again, he's stretched, you know what I mean? Just imagine him as he really is.
He really is that sweaty though, just so everybody knows.
Oh, that's the lens. Vaseline. So photography as well was an absolute no-brainer for us. We're not professional photographers. We just take cameras. We're enthusiasts, and we're just trying to capture our experience. Photography, once again, is super, super, super transformative and transportative. On any given trip, I'll shoot hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos on film. It started, I was taking the technicalities, shooting the stills, dials, fucking diodes, other shit like that. But then I just started shooting the people, the places, swimming nude in a river, Happy accidentally pissing on a dog, Jeremy sleeping in a, allegedly, Jeremy sleeping in a van, everything. We started to shoot everything, and we found that the more absurd, the more connecting and the more real, as people looked eye to eye with our menus and our experiences, the better reaction we were having, the more it was transporting them, and we started to really change their reaction as they engaged with the spirits. We'd really kind of flipped the paradigm. Here's another photo of a still, and here's a photo of some raicilla coming out of a sugar bag in a shed. Honesty was the other thing that we used. Now, experts used honesty, so anybody that's like throwing shade in the crowd, you can say at this point like, oh, you experts. But we were trying to frame ourselves as enthusiasts. Honesty and transparency, which is clear, think about that. Honesty and transparency became part of our story. We really wanted to share with those guests what we were doing, what we were seeing, and the way that people were doing them. So if they wanted to choose to engage with it on a deeper level, we could go through that as well.
And the last one of these, and the fourth of our tools, is the Kernel. And you're probably thinking with the other three, hey, well, I don't own a micro mezcal mecca. I don't run any wine tastings. How can I bring this emotional tasting philosophy into the practice that I'm doing all the time? And the easiest way that we've already just begun to start talking about is the Kernel. Now, if you think back to those three words that we talked about at the end of our tasting session, we call these the Kernel. We don't mean your father-in-law, the military man.
He's a great guy.
We mean the seed. It's the beginning of the story. It's an earworm, it's a memory collector, and it's a mind connector. We put them on every single one of our bottles. As you can see up here, we've got one of my favorites, Granny's Wardrobe, but yum. They can be anything.
Dusty undies drawer.
Dusty undies drawer, another classic. They can be literal. They can be interpretations of your tasting notes, something like mango frozen yogurt. They can be a bit more poetic, something like warm side of the pillow. But the key is that they're connected to how they make you feel. We do them for every single thing that we taste. This is all of the mezcals that we tried on our last trip to Mexico. And after every tasting, we sat down and we wrote up one of these kernels. And every time you look at them, it brings you back to that feeling that you get. It's really connected into your memory. I hope if you got to try it last night, one of my favorites that really illuminates the point is the one that we call Stomping Shady Pines. This is like a crazy raicilla from deep in the south of Jalisco as well. And every time I even just open the bottle, have a sniff or have a sip, it just brings me back to those moments at Shady Pines of crushed peanut shells and Merle Haggard. It's got this powerful smell. And so with these four things, with honesty, with anecdote, with photography, and finally with the Kernel, we were starting to realize that we'd found our missing link between host and guest. We were connecting people on a level that was intense, and it was emotional, and it was authentic. And so we thought we'd come up with a bit of a 1990s inspired manifesto.
It's from the beach.
From the beach, or Scream. We can't remember which movie, but choose empathy, choose connection, choose honesty, choose emotion.
Mezcal has taught us some powerful lessons about life, love, and the nature of experience. At its heart, Mezcal is a divisive, abrasive, and hectic spirit to drink. It's also quite hard to bring back. As proof, here's some mezcal fermenting in an untanned animal hide. But with a peak inside its life, inside its guts, it was helping us connect with our memories, with our emotions, with the producers, and with the people around us. It didn't matter if we were judging the San Francisco International Spirits Tournament or just waiting for your Tinder date to arrive. We had started a conversation. And what we'd done in that conversation is made that moment more human, more democratic. We'd flattened the gap so we could now talk guest to host, enthusiast to enthusiast, human to human. We were connecting with our base level human emotions. And why is that important? 1, because it makes us feel good. 2, because suddenly everybody was included. And 3, because true, honest, and inclusive connection makes everything, including what's in your glass, taste better.